You and I are about to listen to this ancient cassette tape, which contains the first ever Doctor Who audio drama that I wrote and performed back in 1979. I have no idea what to expect because I haven't listened to this properly yet since the late 70s, and so we're going to experience it together for the first time. Now, let me just quickly tell you a bit about this channel. It's a retro variety channel. The one thing that unites all of the videos on this channel is that they all aim to give you that retro rush, that giddy nostalgia hit. And hopefully this video will make you remember Doctor Who stories that you wrote as a child. Personally, I mostly wrote comic strips, and so the existence of this tape has been a real surprise to me. These days I'm an author who writes books like these, but I have written before that several Doctor Who audio dramas. And I suppose this is where that particular strand of my career all began. Let's take a look at the descriptions of the stories on this sleeve. So the first story, it's a 4-part Sontaran story. I've got no idea how long each part is. And then the tape moves on to The Attack, which is a 6-part epic, a Cyberman story where they take over. Well, that's original, isn't it? And then there's Tentacle, a story about a creature that lives underground, and it goes on. We won't get that far into the tape. I'm going to show you some highlights of me reacting to the first story on this tape. And then I'm going to give my Patreon backers access to more of it. So if you're actually enjoying this and you are a Patreon backer, or you might consider becoming one, then you can hear more of this on Patreon and see more of my reactions. I must confess to having a bit of trepidation about this. I should have listened to this and made sure it's not hideously embarrassing before uploading it to YouTube and reacting to it in front of you. But that's the nature of YouTube. We do ridiculous things for attention. I give you Doctor Who The Disappearance by Jason Arnott, aged pretty young, as you're about to hear. Oh, the suspense. Whoa, sound effects. Did I do sound effects for this?
Part 1 of the disappearance.
I
was at the top of the garden in the summer house. It was a lovely sunny day. But then, fog swirled all around the summer house with amazing speed. The sun had gone so quickly, I just couldn't believe my eyes. As though the fog had suddenly come from space and enveloped the summer house. I had the sensation that the summer house was in the air, but I knew that couldn't be.
No, couldn't be. How could that
I
be?
opened the door to go out and go indoors, as the fog was making me a bit cold. I opened the door.
I'm pausing it just to give you a bit of commentary here. That is remarkable. I mean, obviously the pitch of my voice is quite remarkable, but the Suffolk accent is so strong. I grew up in Lowestoft in Suffolk, and there's sound effects, even though it is just me going shh. I think that's quite, shows admirable ambition. I like how I'm the hero of the story as well. It's not the Doctor, or is the Doctor actually going to be in this story? Maybe it's just me, sort of being me, but being the Doctor. Let's find out.
And I put the other one in. But then my hands let go, and I was hanging, and then I was falling.
Oh dear. That's me dead then. That's the end of the story, I expect. Great scream.
Thud.
Wow. Made me jump. Is this the end of the episode? I think this is the end of the episode.
End of part 1.
Wow. Well, we've got to hear what happens in part 2.
The disappearance.
We've got to hear what happens in part 2 now.
Part 2 of the 4-part story, The Disappearance. I was hanging, and then I was falling.
There's a recap. I did a recap. Oh, yeah. I hope the Sontarans turn up pretty soon.
It was a Sontaran, and it raised its gun to fire. It was just about to fire when I kicked it out of its hand, and I smashed it down on its head. Oh.
Wow, this is definitely from the BBC Doctor Who sound effects album. I remember this now. Some of these effects are from the Invasion of Time.
The Sontaran was now dead.
Ah, the sound. This is from The Invisible Enemy. This sound effect, isn't it?
I realised it. I was getting smaller. The Sontaran leader laughed and said, "In 10 seconds, it will be dead."
Sontarans don't speak like that, Jace.
As he laughed and laughed and laughed.
He laughed and laughed. See, the thing is, like, back in those days, you only got to see Doctor Who once. We didn't have a video back then, and so I'd probably remembered that as being what the Sontaran's voice was like. I'd only seen the Invasion of Time, I expect. These sound effects are so cool. Well done, past me.
The Sontaran leader was really annoyed and said to the scout, "Go and kill him! The militarization process is non-functional." I was running, full size by now.
It's building to the grand climax.
Bolted on the other side though, and I was trapped. I heard the Sontaran's footsteps coming down the corridor. He came round the corner, and then he raised his gun and fired. It broke the lock, and I opened the door, rushed in, and shut it. I was inside the summer house again. Fog swirled round the summer house as it had at the start.
The summer house.
I saw the Sontaran shape going. Where would I go to next? Who knows?
Oh, who knows? Clever. I like how I didn't actually involve the Doctor. I kind of implied that I was the Doctor, maybe, but I didn't use the Doctor as if I was somehow going to breach.
Part 4 of the disappearance.
As if I was somehow going to breach copyright laws by actually using the Doctor in my taped drama that no one would ever hear. Until now, obviously. Well, that was quite something. I'm quite impressed with myself, my young self, to be honest. Yeah, that's that's pretty cool. I'm really happy that I was writing Doctor Who stories essentially back at my very young age, as you can hear. The story is sort of vaguely coherent, I think. Yeah, for that age, it's all right. There's a bit of action, isn't there? A bit of argy-bargy. Yeah, it's childish fun, isn't it? Childish fun. On Patreon, you can hear the full delight of it from start to finish. It's a weird experience listening to something that you did decades and decades ago. It's just like a past life, like 5 past lives ago. And it's so weird that I have no memory of this tape at all. None of these, listening to that doesn't really ring any bells. It doesn't make me think, oh yes, I remember coming up with a story, or sitting there, or recording it, or sitting there with my 2 tape players. Don't have any memory of it at all. I kind of wish I did, but I'm so glad that tape exists, because I'm going to digitize it now. Let's get down in comments so you can tell me about what type of Doctor Who stories you wrote as a kid. Did you draw comic strips? Did you write prose stories? Did you record audio dramas? Get down in comments and let me know. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next video, don't forget to embrace your obsessions.